stop, won't stop, can't stop, won't stop, can't stop, won't stop, can't stop, won't stop.
3, 2, 1. What is up, everybody? You are listening, you are watching to the Constant Elevation Podcast. I am your host, Gabe Rock. Hope you're all enjoying this Memorial Day weekend. Up front, remember the reason why we have this weekend. It's not just it is technically, I don't know if it's technically the start of summer, but I know it's an American recognition of the start of summer. I know my wife will be like, well, actually it's the sun solstice. There's some other scientific word where she says like, that's the actual, technically the start of summer. I'm like, oh, okay, well in America where we believe in freedom, Memorial Day is actually the start of summer, but it's an important day to remember our fallen brothers and sisters. And so I just want to make sure that you take the time to just kind of reflect on the weekend and if you're if there are some Memorial Day events around your, if you live near a military installation or in the neighborhood where you can pay homage to those who pay the ultimate sacrifice, I highly recommend you participate because this is not we should be doing this all the time, but definitely on the weekend to just make sure that we are remembering our fallen brothers and sisters who have given the ultimate sacrifice for our freedoms. And so, of that note, I'm actually on this Saturday at CrossFit Hampton Roads. I'm actually hosting and coaching the Murph workout, and so we have 2 heats, got some packed houses going on. I personally will be doing, because of my injury, I actually have to do a different version of it. So instead of doing the run, I'm going to do a 1,600 meter row on the front and back ends. And then I plan on either doing a partner version of it with the homie Michelle. She's one of the other coaches at CFHR, or doing a solo version. We'll see how I feel tomorrow morning when I do it. And I actually do it in PT uniform. It's been kind of weird, but I've done that the last 3 or 4 years. Not wearing a weight vest because I don't need to and I don't really care. But the idea of making sure that it's an annual tradition as a CrossFitter to do Murph, and so I want to preserve that. But I'm also past the point of needing to prove anything to anybody, and so it's more important to just pay reflection for that. So I'm looking forward to coaching that for the team, and then making sure they have a memorable experience over at CrossFit Hampton Roads. Other than that, it has been a doozy. It has been a doozy of almost like a whole week. Ever since, because normally I record these things on Thursdays, and then since Friday, some shit has gone down for the Avila Ohana. It's just been crazy. So let me recount. Friday, my car actually blows like radiator something. I had to take it into the garage, but that was a certain bill. I just got the car back yesterday. Yep, just got it yesterday. So that was Friday. Saturday, I pick up Benjamin from work, and then I bring him home, and then he took a shower. He's like, Dad, that is the coldest shower I've ever taken. I was like, huh, that's weird. So I go downstairs to the basement. Oh, it's leaking. The water heater's leaking. So I had to put an emergency work order with base housing. I actually got it fixed the Sunday evening, and so it was a late Sunday evening, but it wasn't the end of the road. So luckily that one kind of went off without any effort. They just replaced the whole water heater. Didn't try to fix it, just replaced it. So that was pretty cool. But it did affect my coaching on Monday, and I got actually evaluated. We do monthly evaluations at CFHR, and I got evaluated, and Lindsay, the head coach, she already knew I was off. There was a couple things going on in my head. We had some no sign-up people show up, and I had to just kind of balance it off. I was just going to off my game, and that happened to be the class she was evaluating me on. And so if she would have came for the 5 a.m. class, she would have seen a nice cleanly run event, but she wasn't. She was there evaluating me at 6. She did offer me some grace to be like, no, you seem kind of off. I'm like, oh, here's what happened. And I told her all the things going on. And then she's like, oh yeah, that's definitely a reason why. And so I coached on Wednesday this week, and it was fine. But then we keep on going. So yeah, the water heater broke, and then just yesterday, unfortunately, things happens in threes. Our daughter Lana, she got into a car accident in Phoenix, and so she's okay. Where her Hyundai is getting evaluated now, whether it's gonna be a total loss or not. It's so funny. I was talking to Ben, and then he was like, I explained the whole like how the payment's gonna happen, or whether or not we're gonna get how we're gonna get Lana a new car or something like that, and then I was like, yeah, so depending on how, either we're going to fix her car, hopefully, or we just explain the deductibles and all that jazz, and then hopefully we don't have to do a total loss. And then he's like, or you can get me a car. I'm like, you're a crappy driver. Why would I get you a car? He's like, well, at least I haven't been in an accident. I go, oh, okay, that's actually technically true. So he will have that over his sister for the time being, and so it's just kind of funny. But yeah, it has been crazy. All those kind of things culminating within the last week. It has been an emotional roller coaster for the Avila Ohana, and things are kind of settling down. So hopefully we'll have some moving into Memorial Day weekend, having a little bit more, everybody just stop doing stuff. Just stay in place and nothing dramatic happen, and I think it'll be okay. But yeah, just kind of a weird thing going on in our family where everybody's okay, health is there and everything, but it's just been a rough week. So I just want to give you an update on the Avilohana. So this week, what I want to talk about, actually, this was the first subject when I started sketching out season 7. The first one I was really excited about, because if you've heard me before, I've said that I'm going to have to learn. My mentors have told me before, I'm going to have to learn what it means to be a colonel in my first year as a colonel. I was like, what are you talking about? I know what it means to be a colonel. No, I didn't. There's just it hits at a whole different level, and but there's some things that are still tried and true, and these are the kind of things. That's the reason why I titled this episode "Making Freshman Mistakes at the Senior Level," is because like there's some stuff that's going on, and obviously I have 3 things obviously to talk about, but like the idea of how am I making these mistakes? I shouldn't have better than this, and I still have room to recover. And so like I'm sharing my stories with you as an observation of like, hey, so even these kind of mistakes happen at the highest level. No matter how experienced you are, you're still potentially prone to make some initial mistakes. Just recognize that you're making them, and then correct your actions and move forward. That's the biggest thing. But first observation is not communicating decisions and information at multiple levels. So there's this idea of, so our job at, or the responsibilities placed to us here at Air Combat Command as Lead Command for Cyber, it's a lot. And so what happens is the things that we say need to make sure that they are spread throughout the land accordingly. And we have not done a good job about that. And so a lot of times we're just kind of the battle rhythm and the churn is just going on, and we just got to go meeting to meeting to meeting. We're like, yeah, but the important stuff is actually happening at these meetings. And that's the kind of piece that I'm like, oh, and that's going to hit a number 3, but like my third observation. But there's definitely like the work that we are doing. I mentioned it earlier to a teammate. I was like, we are actually in now the ivory tower. We are actually the ones that are just up there actually making some very, very important decisions on behalf of the community. But our job is to make sure that we don't stay there, that we actually distribute that information in clear, concise products that people and they can get consistently, to make sure that everybody's moving along in the same page. But we just do a poor job of doing that. And so recently, like just kind of in the within the last 3 or 4 months, we keep on saying out loud, write that shit down, write it down. Write it down, because it actually means something, and I don't want anything to get lost in translation. So if we made a decision and there's important factors within that decision, I don't want someone to just remember like 3 of the 4 things when that 4th thing is really important. No. You're going to write down the decision properly, and we're going to release it in some sort of professional product. Could be an MFR, Gen Admin, something like that. Email is a distribution channel. It is not a place to officially do things and capture decisions. So we want to make sure that those decisions are owed the proper kind of format for it to be, because we're a professional organization. We're in a profession of arms. Make sure we act like it and conduct ourselves accordingly. And so just getting better at communicating. So not only the written word version, but also making it to where do we make this available for everybody? So where can we, if only there were a point of sharing that people can just kind of bookmark in their web browser and be like, oh, let me go see what are the new things that A60 has been making decisions on. So creating like an A60 official document portal where we host all of our Gen admins to say, here's the documented decisions that have been made. That way people understand, and we keep on moving forward together as a team. In addition to writing shit down, it's also the idea of finding the appropriate battle rhythms to kind of market and socialize these, right? And so we can do it in multiple levels, and I really think it's good if our products can actually get out to the field, both up and down the chain of command, and those same messaging actually gets out consistently. That's good. So it's even more important to write that shit down correctly. That way something is not lost in translation. It can be easily understood. So easy, a pilot can understand it. So that's the first piece, that first freshman mistake that I've been making. The second freshman mistake, not representing the team properly at more significant engagements. Okay, so what I mean by that is when I first came onto into my job, I'm always very protective of my time, regardless, because I just want to make sure I maintain the right harmony between my personal life and my professional life. First off, I want to make sure I'm not going to burn it down and lose my family, so that's not going to happen. And I love coaching CrossFit, and so I want to make sure that's always baked in as a requirement for me as well, as much as I can. Obviously, mission comes first. But the idea of protecting my time, when I first came into the seat, they're like, oh, sir, you're just going to go, you have so many things in your battle rhythm. I'm like, why? Do I need to go to those pieces, go to those meetings? And so I started to deliberately like just kind of selectively not go to things and just see what happens. And because I'm like, I wanted to be there for my team. And that was important to make sure that either internal to the A6 or from my branch chiefs, just making sure that I'm available for them and should they need guidance. And so when I stopped going to things, a couple things happened. One, yes, I started getting calls and be like, hey, so we were missing you at this appointment. And so this is a O6 level event. You're representing A6. You're like the lone 6 at the table. So we definitely need you there. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Thank you. I can't tell just looking at Outlook what is more important than other. So it took me some time in order to understand which battle rhythm engagements are appropriate for me to attend, or potentially I can send one of the deputies or branch chief can represent us. It's more working groupish, not versus a decision brief. And then the other pieces is just kind of where I was like, well, what's happening there? Are we actually making decisions, or are you just sharing information? Those are different kind of things. So just just trying to pick I'm being selective about where I spend my time. And that's still important no matter where you're at in the organization. Be very, very deliberate about where you spend your time. But I started to just understand of like, oh no, am I a voting member? Oh, that's different. I probably should be there. Now I'm at the head or near the head of the table. Always weird when I got to sit at the head of the table. Or am I just what is it called? An influencer? To the point where like it's important that I'm there, but not necessarily required, or that there's some flexibility to that. Right? I can go send a branch chief or whatever it is, depending on the subject. I'll send the right teammate from A60. But that idea, I just didn't realize that how important this division in A60 is to the larger community, and how we conduct ourselves in those meetings is very, very important. I was like, it's seen as very important. It's just because we're lead command again, so we have 1% more vote than everybody else, and it's like, oh, okay. So I'm just getting more comfortable in that mode. It took me a long time, and oftentimes I have to prepare myself and the team for me to set up to not embarrass anybody. And depending on it, is it enterprise IT, is it warfighting comms? A lot of those pieces I have to do both, and so sometimes it's very difficult for me to just kind of shift gears, shift tracks, and make sure I switch subjects. But if I prepare myself correctly and surround myself with smart teammates, it's an easy transition. So just recognizing that freshman mistake, that like, oh, I didn't realize that was actually the important piece, that we serve as an important role with the team at large, and we have to be consistent in our presence. So the final third item of freshman mistakes making at the senior level, not recognizing an opportunity to make progress with my teammates. And so this kind of goes along the lines of, I talked previously about like the love languages and how our teammates, when we do some of those personality tests, we understand like how do we what works and how do we operate as an individual, but then within the context of a larger team. So part of that is just I had to make time for individual one-on-one conversations with some of my teammates. And that actually cuts through that dedicated time is where you're uninterrupted. I'm not buried in an email. I'm not searching for you on Teams, because you only get so much context, obviously, over online and even through video conferencing. But just spending time with my teammates and understanding that, like, hey, so here's the things I'm worried about. It was actually today was a very good example. Before we even got talking about work, we're just checking in on each other. And so I was sharing some of the hardships on my side and for my family-wise, for my personal life, and they were sharing some of theirs. And it's like, oh yeah, it's just kind of rough. And so that context of just having some empathy for my fellow teammates. And it's like, hey, so the work's going to be there, but like just check in. And they were grateful. They're like, hey, thanks for asking about that. Because we could have easily just started going into just work. I was like, I don't want to talk about work. I want to just check on how you are. And it was very important. And I appreciate the other direction for me when they're like, yeah, so how's your daughter moving into her apartment? How is that? How's your son doing his first week of school? Whatever. Like those are important things. And I appreciate my teammates taking time for that. And so that's I did not make that time early. I think I was just so focused and overwhelmed with the amount of just operational responsibility we had. I didn't carve out time like that. And so now everything is kind of normalized. I'm more comfortable in my role and our team's role and how we operate. Now I can actually create some space to be like, hey, just check in. As a regular human being and a leader, the responsibility is going to be there, but I want to make sure we're all good to go. Or if you need help covering down on something, let me know. And so like, how do I smartly set up the team for success? I'm always going to be interested in that, but it doesn't happen like automatically. You have to make time for those kind of pieces, and it's very, very important. So make sure you learn from these 3 freshman mistakes that I'm making, even at the senior levels. No one is immune to making some of these mistakes. It was frustrating for my part that I should have known better, but all I can do now is try and make it better, right? So all right, team. So again, those are my 3 freshman mistakes. You can go to constantelevation.co for the whole a rundown of some of my transcripts. Not really official transcripts. I usually just kind of write down all my thoughts before or after the episode, and then I just type out stuff and I just freestyle, one take Jake, this kind of my content. But I appreciate you listening into every week. So yeah, constantelevation.co for previous episodes and for some of my content. Also please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel if that's how you can take in my content. Head to constantelevation.co /shop to pick up one of my Can't Stop Won't Stop morale patches. They're still selling very, very well. So thank you for everybody who's been participating in that. I've already know that I'm going to be making some Battlefield circulations. I'll probably be heading out to Dafidic, potentially to AFA. So all my TDYs, I'll probably have a handful of on me, and then easy, cheap $6 and just be part of, help me support. Apparently for all these car accidents and broken water heaters, I may or may not need to make sure I'm making money on the side to pay for all this shit. So that's beside the point. Hopefully it's all done. It comes in 3s and we're done now. So again, team reminder, please remember for this Memorial Day why we're remembering those who've fallen. And so make sure you please take time with you and your family to pay your respects, and we will talk to you next week. Peace.